Something went on. Okay. Okay.
Hello everyone.
Welcome everyone to the session 5, which is purely on one of the element in this PL300 series on the DAX. So we have Amit Chandak, Microsoft MVP. I think you know him very well. No need of introduction from my side. If you could able to hear, please let us know in the comments. Uh, yes, so that we conclude that you are all good to go. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes, and the stage is all yours, Amit.
Thanks, there, Bharat. Thanks for welcome. As Bharat already told all of you, and some of you might be interacting with me in the past. So I am Amit Chandak, Data Platform MVP, uh, and I am also a Microsoft Power BI Community super user. I run a YouTube channel with my own name, and I keep on doing contributions on Microsoft Fabric and Power BI. And I'm happy to interact with you in this session where we are going to learn more on DAX. So what I've done is I've shared one link which Bharat is going to share in the chat window with you. This is the file which we are going to take today and do the journey on this one. So in this file, I already have a data model which I'm going to explain, and I already created some calculated column and measures. So I'm going to explain you what I've done that, and using those definitions, we will take forward our journey and do a little bit of time intelligence and more of little bit of advanced tax. So let's begin the journey. I will start sharing my screen, and in a moment you should be able to see another screen.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that now you are seeing a screen with the Power BI desktop. Now, till some time back, as you are aware, the only way to start a data model in Power BI is Power BI desktop. But this limitation has been removed few days back. And if you are a Mac user, you should be happy that you can create the complete data model on web. I did have created a video around it, but those of you who are having a Power BI service login, not having a PC, they can use that left hand side create button, the plus button, and from there they can start this model. Now I have already given you this file in the link, and this link would be available on YouTube in some time for you. uh, what you can do is you can download this file and practice what I'm telling you this. Now this file is available on my GitHub account, and there from there also I have the source file, which is sales data used in video, which is also the source for this. Let me take you through my data model. And this is my data model here. I have a sales table, which I have created from the Excel sheet. So this is the data I've taken from Excel. Item again coming from the same Excel. Customer again coming from same Excel. And geography again coming from same Excel. Now, this is a perfect star schema model. Why? Because I have my sales table, which is my fact, and I have my dimension, and all of them have common columns like city ID, and all these are one-to-many joins. And as you can see, these are all one-to-many single directional join. Why we have single directional join? Because we prefer single directional join. If these are bi-directional, it means anything I filter on fact is also going to filter my dimension. These things can slow down if you are using direct query mode, but this is also meant for purpose. There are certain scenarios where bidirectional join are helpful than any other thing you wanted to do. So meant for purpose, if you need it, you can have it. Now I have a date table. I have a couple of dates here, sales date as well as the delivery date. Let me see if I have the two of them. Yes, I have sales date where with which I have joined. I also have a delivery date with which I could have joined this, but right now only single join has been created. I also have a date table, which is I have created in DAX. So in DAX, when you want to create a date table, we use the calendar function to do that. Now, while I have the complete script with me and I can provide you that, I'll just show you how you create a date table. Now, anytime you want to create a table, now previously there was a limitation that we can only create it on the data view, but now that limitation has been taken over, you can create it in any of the views. So what I'll do is in spite of that fact, I'll take you to the table view, and here I'll tell you how to create a date table. So click on any of the table, you should be able to see the table tool, and inside the table tool, you can click on new table, and once you click on new table, it will open a formula bar, and this formula bar is for table. And let me scroll middle, I have pressed the control and then I scroll, and it gives me a little bigger text which I can showcase you. And here if I type, let's say date 1, it means left hand side the table name, and then I can use calendar function. I have a calendar auto function. It is best when you have only one fact table, but when you have more than one fact table and complex relationship, it may not work. So here I'm going to use calendar. Now when you use calendar, you need to be knowing your start point and the end point. And I know my data, so I can give a start date. And to give the date, again I'm going to use a function which is date function, where I can give three arguments. The first argument is year, which is 2018. Second argument is month, which is 01, and third argument is day, which is also 01. Comma followed by another date, which is the end date, which is in my case 2020. I can keep it till today if I want, and the last month would be 12, and last date would be 31st. I want to get it till year end. After that, once I get this dates, these are continuous set of date. Every day I will have one date. I can mark it as a date table. Also, I can add additional columns. Now to add additional column, one of the common ways which we have and what we call calculated column addition, that I click on this new column and I can add a new column. Let's say I need month year. Month year in which format? Month year in text format. So for that, I have a function format. Now, for what format function does it? It allows you to format date, numbers in a given format. Here, date is my column, and I can format it in MMM hyphen y. So, and then there is a local also which is available, which you can use means for the localization. Now, it gives me a month here in Jan hyphen 2018 means 3M and 4Y format. If you use 4M, it means it's going to give complete January. Now, one thing you have to remember that some of you may, what you do, you click on this date and you go ahead and format this and in the same format and say, okay, I have a date and which is, I formatted it, but when you go to the visualization, it start repeating. The reason for that, that this format is only changing your display. It is not changing the granularity. So what does it mean? It is going to remain at a granular level. It is going to remain date. It is not still month here. But when we use here, it actually became month here. Now this month here, if I take on the page in my visualization, it is not going to sort. The reason for that is in Power BI, there is no way for us to tell Power BI that this is a month here. It needs to be sorted like a month here. So in such cases, what we do in Power BI is we create an additional column, which is actually sortable, and we mark that as a sort column for this column. So how do I do that? I add another new column. And with this new column, month, year, sort, I would like to have a format which is sortable. Now I can have a text format or a number format, both sortable. YYYMM is the sortable format. So with the format function, I can get it. Or if I want it completely numeric, I'll tell you a way. Take the year of the date, which is year of the date. Now this date is available in the date table. That's why I'm using in the square brackets date, multiply it by 100 and plus month of the date. So now what is this? What we are doing here? We are creating a calculated column. Calculated column is created at the row level, each row level, and it will be get saved with this file. So it is going to occupy some space on your disk or and you're in service on your cloud, that is going to occupy some space. It is physically calculated. It is calculated every time you create it or when you load or refresh the data next time. So when the next time this data refresh will happen, let's say tomorrow I'll get my new sales when I refresh this file, or maybe I'm refreshing every 2 hours, this the calculation will get recalculated and this will get saved at the file level or at the model level. What does also mean that is it is not dynamic in nature. It is as dynamic as this calculation is. It cannot take slicers, filters, anything you are doing on visual. The calculated columns are not impacted. And many times you have this question and you need to understand this difference, that the Power BI calculated columns and calculated tables are not dynamic. It means they are not going to interact anything you are doing on the visualization. They are static in nature. They're as dynamic as they are here. These calculations can go across rows and everything we can use earlier. We can use min max and all those. That is fine. But it is not going to take anything from your visualization. They are static in nature. So calculated columns are calculated at the file refresh or when you are creating them. They are at the row level and they will not change with the page filters, page parameters, or page slicers, and they will be stored at the file level, increasing my file. They increase the load time. It means at the runtime they will be used as it is. Now we know how to create this calculated column, but definitely this date table is not very flexible, because if you want to take this to another file, it is not like a script which I can take and do take it to another file. And that is where one additional function comes in very handy, what we call the add columns function. Add columns functions allows you to take first argument as a table, and after that you can have a name of a column and the calculation, name of a column and calculation. So as you can see here, I have month year the same day format, and then month year sort I have used the text format here YYYMM, and then year, quarter, week, month sort. I can create n number of columns which are required, and then finally I can close this. Now if I have little complex table, what we do is we take this into variable and then have multiple add tables depending on the hierarchies we need, calculation hierarchies basically. So you will find in my videos little complex version of that. Now I'm done with this calculation. Now why did I calculate this month year sort in that table or this table? So I'll just explain you with one example. So first of all, let me do one thing, explain you what was the challenge. So I went into the report view. Let me add a page, and inside that page, what I'm going to do is from the new date table one, I will bring this month here. And you will see the sorting of this month here is April because A is first. Let me also try this from the date month here. And you see this is January, February, March, April. Why this is difference? The difference is because of the fact, and let me explain you on the table view. If I go to this month here, and when this column tool opens, and if I go to sort by column, it is month year only. See, the month year is highlighted, little gray. It's very small difference. But if I go to the date table and I click on the month year and I go to sort by column, the month year sort is the column on which it is sorted. That is why it is happening. So I'm going to go ahead again back to my date one table, click on month year, click on sort by column, and click on month year sort. So what does this means is month year sort would be the sorting order for the month year. What it also means is every time you are bringing month year in your visualization, month year sort is automatically getting order, getting added to your visual to give you the correct order. So if you go back to the visualization now, you will see both of them are sorted correctly. So this is the importance of sort column, and this is really important. So now we know how do we add calculated columns and how do we add, sort column. Now let's go back to the table view, and here I have a sales table which I got some time back, and here I have done some certain calculations. So if you see here, I have this COGS amount, which is nothing but sales cost by quantity, which are column previously available. Similarly, I have discount percentage, which is coming original, but I have gross amount, which is nothing but quantity multiplied by price. And I have discount, a calculated column, which is previously calculated gross sales multiplied by discount percentage and divide by 100. So all these calculated column, you can see it here in the file, and they are going to be saved along with my file. In this case of desktop, in case of Power BI service inside the model, I'm going to occupy some space. Now let's go ahead and look at the report view. I have also created this major table. How do I create? I create an empty table using uh, enter data, or I can simply create a table and then I can give it any name. So typically we give it as a name major, not majors, and then we create this table. Once this table is created, let's say KPI. Now inside this table, you can create your majors. Once a single major is added, you hide the column which is available. So I'm getting the KPI2 table because I already have a KPI table here. So because I already had a KPI table and where you can see this column 1, and what I can do is discount is a measure which is already part of the KPI. I can move this to KPI2 table, and this is a measure. Let me explain you in a while how you create a measure, and then I can go ahead and hide this only available column. And the moment I do this, this KPI went on the top with this calculation icon, which is showing it as a measure table. So it doesn't mean that the measure table need to have a name as measure. It is just a table which contains your measures, and you can have multiple of those. Now, what is a measure and how do we create it? To create a measure, you can click on any of the table. Now, while calculated columns belong to a table, measures belong to a model. And that is why any measure, we can change the home table and move it to others. The reason if there are multiple facts and the formula belongs to multiple fact, which fact it belongs to. So that is why the measure belongs to model. Even if, let's say this calculation, let's say if I want to create a gross measure, which is just nothing but sum of gross amount from sales table, it do belongs to sales table because the base measure, base column is coming from sales table. It still belongs to the model, and it can lie in any of the tables. It can be in customer table, date table, item table, or it could be part of a measure table. Now to create a measure, you click on the new measure inside the table tool, or you click on existing measure, measure tool, new measure. Irrespective of where you choose, you can create a new measure. Now to create a new measure, you can go ahead and create a new measure like say gross 1, which is nothing but sum of gross amount from sales table. I can have a little more complex calculation, like if I want to do multiplication inside or any kind of calculation, then I need to use iterator functions like function like SUMX, COUNTX, MINX. Now SUMX, inside SUMX, you can only give one column. You can't give quantity multiplied by price. If you have to do that, you need to use SUMX. So iterator function, and then you are going to do it. Now, unlike columns, measures will not appear in the table. The calculation, if you go, if let's say if I add it, now ideally speaking, it is nothing but my measure which is giving me gross sales, and I can put it into the sales table because it belongs to sales table. But when I go to the table view, even on the sales table, you will see that you don't see this measure inside the table view. This measure is not available. Even if I click on that, it will not come. Only definition is shown. The reason is measure is a definition. It is not calculated at the load time of the file or the time of creation. It is only calculated when you put it inside the visual. So only metadata is saved or the definition is saved. Its execution happen at the runtime. So measures are preferred. They are calculated at the runtime. But in case your measure includes such a complex calculation that it is slowing down your visual, you can check an opportunity to move part of that calculation to calculated column and making your measure faster, because ultimate aim is to make user experience faster. The suggestion is use measures, don't have too many layers of measure inside measure, and you can avoid calculated column. Now if you are a Microsoft Fabric customer, all the calculated column should be done before you reach to the model. You are not going to create any calculated column. However, it is not allowed in direct lake. It is allowed in the import mode tables, which can be done with the direct lake mode. But as a best practice, there should not be any need of creating a calculated column in the semantic model. If you are using a data warehouse, if you are using Microsoft Fabric, a lake house or a warehouse, there shouldn't be any need of creating a calculated column in your semantic model. It is only measures which you should create. So if you've created a warehouse and still you need to create calculated column, it means your warehouse is not completing all the needs what you need. Now, we understood calculated column, we understood measures. We would like to put them into a visual, check it out, and then we will also like to create few more additional measures. So I can drag this gross measure, which is very similar to the gross measure I created. Same way I created a COGS measure, I can also drag that. Now what you see when I put it in the first table, and let me create it as a table visual, you see all the values are same. Let me put it into the second table. And what you observe that the second table, their values are different for every month, and the totals are something which is matching with the each row of the first table visual. The reason for that is the first table visual contains the date table one, which is not joined with any of my table. And this date table is joined. So automatically data is grouping. It is cut by the visual row. So visual filter context is getting applied. And because of the visual filter context, the data is getting grouped and I'm only getting that month's data. It happens only when the tables are related. If the tables are not related, you will see this kind of issue. So either your relationship is inactive or you don't have join. That is why you see this kind of problem. So I can remove this and I can have another visual to take an example that my table is also joined with item. So from item, I can bring in brand and I can drag and drop into the visualization, or I can first create a visual. Let's say I can create a bar visual first. Let's say custom column bar. So I should be clicking on empty space, clicking on custom column bar, then dragging brand and then drag the net major. It is going to create that particular visual. Now what is net? Net is nothing but sum of net sales, and net sales was gross minus discount. So in this manner, we are able to create the visualization using our majors. Now, there's something which came very recently and very new, which is visual calculation. I'm not sure you will be getting questions on that for DP 300, but we have something known as visual calculation. Visual calculations are only at the visual level and getting calculated on the result which you have got. It means something which is outside the result which will not be achieved, which cannot be done, but it's really helpful. So I can, let's say, create a running sum, because let's say I want a cumulative total or running sum. So new visual calculation, and I can use this template of running sum. Which field I want? I want net. Now that field also should be part of the visual already. It is not that you can use something which is not part of the visual. And as you can see, this is giving me running sum. Now running sum by brand order. So now because my visual is not ordered by brand, that's why you are seeing it. So let me go ahead and sort by brand, because the order by was brand. Now we do have functions like order by. I can order on the column. Those things are also available. Now one more thing which I can do once I start using the visual calculation, let me go back and I can hide this net itself. So I'm only seeing the running total. So now it is possible to hide the measures which are underlying the visual calculations, and you can do it. Now with the visual calculation, you do go get formatting option at the visual calculation level. Because what would happen, sometime you will do this, let's say percentage of total. Now it cannot sum up to the decimal format or the number format of your major net. Let's say it's a number format or a decimal format, then you need it as a percentage format. So at the visual calculation level, you can have its own format. At the visual level, you can have its own format. At the series level, you can have format. So these facilities has been added in last 1 year, where the formatting can be at the three level: the major level, the visual level, and the property level. The third level is basically the property. Let's say uh, data label is a property. Now I can have a different format in data label versus when I'm looking at the let's say tooltip. The tooltip could have different format, the data label could have different format. So you can have that kind of formatting done, and all these are available inside your property format pane. So if you look at the property here, if you go to data format, you see net and sum can be, I can have a format at the visual level. So I can change my format of the net at the visual level. I can change it to whole number or maybe to one decimal place. Isn't it? Right now it was two decimal place by default, and I can change it to one decimal place. Now everything in the visual will start following the one decimal place. Right now the net is not visible, so we need to make it visible again. Edit, make it visible, hide this, come back. Now it is coming one decimal. Even if I take label, it will be one decimal. But because we have a flexibility, I can again show the label at different formatting, and I can have different formatting for the uh, tooltip. So all these things are possible now. So you have to remember these small things. Some of these things can be asked in exam, and you have the Copilot. In case you are using a paid capacity, you should be able to use Copilot to develop your reports. So we learned a little bit of DAX, where we calculated simple measures. Now I'll tell you how to create a measure at the row level. Now, one of the things which happens is sometimes we work with, let's say, direct query mode or direct lake mode. In both the cases, we can't create calculated column. What happens if you need a row level calculation? What do you mean by row level calculation? Look at the calculation of gross. Now, how many of you think that I can change this to sum of quantity and multiply by sum of price or average of price? Can I do that? If you think yes, please let me know. It's not. It's going to give you huge number. And the reason for that is that some calculation, especially multiplication, need to be done at row level and division need to be done at aggregated level. Now, if I want to create the same formula as a measure and assume I am in direct lake or direct query mode, I need to bring this formula at the row level. So for that, we have expression functions or the function which is having at the end x. Typically, if you are from the SQL, what you would be surprised by separate function. In SQL, we have sum and inside sum, we can do any calculation we want. So let's create a new measure here inside the measure table, call it as gross 2. And we are going to do a row level calculation. SUMX sales quantity multiply by price. Now it's going to give the error because it's already available. Let me rename it to gross 2. And let me drag and drop it inside the visual, or I can drag and drop it inside the columns of available. So I can drag it here. And what you will observe that it is giving me the same results. Now, if I would have done sum of gross multiply by average of price and everything, nowhere I could have got those results. So if you want to do the calculation at the row level, this is now the physical tables row level. You can have, calculation where we are going to use summarize values where the level of the calculation can be at a virtual level or at the visuals what we are displaying. So in the visual calculation, we might do some of the calculation which is at the row level, the return row. So now we have done these calculations. Now we go to the next thing, which is basically time intelligence. Now time intelligence is really important and PL 300 will definitely have some questions. Now, before we start time intelligence, there are a few things you need to make sure. Now, when we say time intelligence, it means I'm doing some calculation related to time. I'm calculating MTD, month till date, quarter till date, week till date is also supported very recently. It has been supported. Expect a video from my side on that. Uh, However, I have shown you how can you actually calculate week till date without even using time intelligence. We have been supported with the calendar function, where we can use simply the calendar itself to run that calculations like YTD and WTD, etc. Now, few things you need to make sure before you do time intelligence or use time intelligence function basically that you need to have first of all a date table. A date table means a table with the continuous dates. Then you have to make sure you right click on the date table and mark as a date table. So now this option has been moved to calendar options very recently. This is very recent change that this option is there is no mark as date table. You have to go to calendar option and inside the calendar option, you have this option mark as a date table. And here you can see it. I already marked it as a date table. It's on and date and you have to save it. Now the calendar option is something, this is my CY calendar or FY calendar. Based on that, I can do certain setting of month, year, quarter. And based on that, my calculations can change. Now I have a date table marked as a date table. It has all the dates. The date table should have all the dates. If the dates are less, it starts showing blank at few places. And if the dates more are fine, it should not be less. That it should be joined with your table in a single directional join. If you do bidirectional, if a date is not present in your fact table, that date is not present in date table because it can take filter from the fact table. So that is why always the join should be single directional. Okay, so there are these rules which you have to follow. There are 5 to 6 rules, and you can find my article on that. 6 important rules to follow the time intelligence. And then the second set of rule apply on the when you create the measure and when you create the visualization. So visualization need to use the uh, fields from the date table, and the measure also need to use the fields from the date table. I'm hoping it is making sense. Do we have any questions here, Bharat?
So far, we are good, Amit. People are asking little slow of explanation. I think that is fine. Um, and is it mandatory to create all the measures in the form of a folder? So what is the purpose of creating measures into one folder, or we can create measures in the same tables like dim and fact tables respectively?
Okay. So ideally speaking, the measure should either be created on the base table. One second. Or in a separate table like measure table or a KPI table like that. And the reason for that is we want to keep the structure clean. To keep the structure clean, we always prefer to have a major table, and inside the major table we can further have subfolders. So if you look at here, there is a subfolder, and if you see here the cogs major, it has a display folder as a base. This count as a display folder base, so which is a subfolder. And this subfolder can also be created at table level. It is not that only major table can have it, sales table can also have it. So to make sure that we have a structure, a clean structure, we always use separate tables or subfolders to organize our measures. Otherwise, when you have hundreds of measures, it would be really, really difficult for you to organize it. Okay.
Okay, so one another question which came in group. For example, let's say if you are a recruiter's perspective, if someone is coming for an job opportunity, and the usual question could be, can you explain what is a complex DAX scenario which you have developed? So most people get confused how to start and how to end that answer. So can you just guide the audience how to answer that question? Like, what was the complex DAX scenario you have developed? What examples they can able to give?
Okay, first of all, you said that whenever I got a problem, I'm able to solve it. So I don't think there is complex as long as it can be solved. There is a solution available. Now, after that, you can put up some scenarios. Now, usually what you can do is you can pick up some time intelligence problem. Like now, till some time back, I think WTD, week till date calculations is little difficult. If you want to put a little more complex scenario, then you can talk about let's say basically the tables where you have the calculations which are impacted by the row. The result of the row is basically deciding, then your grand totals are not correct. So any scenario where you worked out where the grand totals are not corrected and you have corrected those by using summarize or SUMX, those are the calculations which are little difficult. Then if you have worked on balance sheet, and do check out my video on that, usually the balance sheet calculation, the creation of balance sheet is more difficult than in the balance sheet calculation. Those are little difficult calculations. Then cross row calculations for the column where you have to use earlier. Let's say, I want to, uh, in the sales table itself, if I want to create, let's say, item wise total, those are little difficult calculations. But just said I think the standard answers would have been that I just try to solve the problems, and it is only difficult till the time I am unable to solve it. Once I am able to solve it, it seems easy. The solution is there, and sometimes when we not able to solve, we take help from Power BI community. And then I think just keep your favorite problem ready, whatever you have faced. And I think you can get many such problems from my channel. Just pick out some of the videos from the advanced series, take one or two calculations out of which, practice it with little value. We should be able to get one or two such calculations which are real difficult, because they are the one which are reflection of Power BI community solutions which I've done. There are many problems which I solved for community, and I have just exactly replicated the sample data. So those calculations which help you out.
Okay. So far, these are the questions you can continue with. You have answered it.
Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to do time intelligence. Now, with the time intelligence, and this is something which I wanted to tell, and a lot of people gives this wrong answer. Whenever we ask people what is month till date, so the standard answer is from the start of the month till today. It is actually correct definition, but in case of Power BI, it is from the start of the month till the date which I selected into the visualization or in my page. And if there is no page, we can assume it today. So basically, month till date, quarter till date is from the start of that period. Month means month, quarter means quarter, and till the date we have selected into the slicer or filter, or if nothing is available, we can take it in today's context from start of this month, let's say no 1st November to 15th November. But if my page is having, let's say 15th July, then it is from 1st July to 15th of July. So we need to take care. So time intelligence calculation, when we are talking about MTD, QTD, YTD, we are talking about what is selected on my page. And if something is not selected, we need to understand the behavior of those functions, because that is really critical. So we are going to do the very first calculation here, which is month till date. And to understand this calculation, I'm going to drag date from the date table on my visualization and net from my base measures onto the visualization. Now what I want here is MTD. What does that mean is basically every date my value will keep on increasing till the month end date, because I'm displaying data by date. So to do that, let's start the first calculation. Again, we can create anywhere on the KPIs or KPI measure. Let me click on KPI 2, new measure. I see the measure table tools this time. I click on table, I see table tool. I click on measure, I will see measure tool. Let me click on measure, I see measure tool. I can click on new measure, and I'm going to create my first measure, which is MTD net. I might already have that, so number 1. How do I calculate? I have two functions, total MTD and dates MTD. Total MTD function doesn't require calculate. It can take expression like net or measure as argument, and it can take a date table. Dates MTD, on the other hand, returns a sequence of dates or table of date, which is actually need to be passed to a filter or to the area where we can pass the filters into the calculate. So there it can be used, or it can be used in SUMX. Or so I'm going to use here calculate net. The expression, first part is the expression, and in the expression part I'm giving my existing measure net, and then I need to supply the filter part, and here I would like to give dates MTD. Dates MTD function is going to give me MTD. It requires only one argument, date, and the argument is date from the date table. Now here comes the rule. We talk about few rules on the when we were creating date table. Now this is the another rule, that the time intelligence function calculations, whenever we are using the functions from the Power BI, they should also use the date table, which has been marked as date table. Another rule applied. I created a measure, and I'm now going to drag it and put it inside my visualization. And let me put back into the table visual. I can actually uncheck this arrange data for me, and it should stop that. Now what you will see here, observe this. Now this is my daily sales, and this one is actually cumulative of that. It is adding this. So this is for 2 days. This is for 3 days. This is for 4 days. So from the start of the month till that particular date, it will keep on adding. So if I scroll down little, what you will see here is at the end of the month, you will see this calculation is keep on adding. At the start of a new month, the first date of the month, and this is equal, because from the start of the month till the date in the context, and who's supplying the date here? The date is being supplied by the visual. The visual is supplying the date here. Till the date which is available in the context, here the context is coming from the visual date, and till that date it is going to sum up. Now what happens? Let's say if I put this on card visual. Now this page doesn't have anything. Let me put a card visual here. And let me bring in this MTD net here. It's giving me some value from where it is deciding this value. And to showcase you from where this value is coming, let me scroll down on this table visual at the last. And you see this value 7173, which is the same value here. If I do a little bit of formatting, properties, data format, whole number, ordinal separator. Now I can make it decimal. Okay, so this is the number. So when there is no date available in the context. Now there is no date available because of the visual. Now there is no date because there is no slicer on the top. Now when there is no slicer on the top, it picks up, and this is only TD functions, MTD, QTD, YTD. There is a set of functions previous which is not going to follow the same rule. All the TD functions are going to pick up the last available date in the calendar which has been used here. And if I look at my date table, my date table was having the last date as 2020-10-31. And if I change it to 12, the month where I doesn't have the data, and come out, what you will see that this becomes blank. And the reason this becomes blank is my MTD now gets the date which is 2020-12-31. For that month, I don't have any data. It picks up the last date. Now, that is why it's usually very important to have a slicer on your page. And now I'm going to add the slicer visual. So I click on the slicer, it gets added on the page. I bring a month here onto that slicer. And I can go and pick up any month where I have data, and you will see that my number will start matching with that. So if you see the December last date number, it is matching with that. So the filter passes it, the visual passes it. So first is filter, second is visual, and third, if nothing is available. If nothing is available, then from the calendar or date of which has been passed to the function. So this is how it behaves. Now let's say this is MTD. Same way you can calculate QTD, dates QTD, YTD, dates YTD. Now if I want to get previous month's value. Now what do you want? Previous complete month or previous month TD? So we are going to discuss both of those, and by that time I think would be end of our session's time. And we'll take up more questions, and we can take any questions in Power BI. Now let's go ahead and try to create something for the last month. So I'm going to use this simple same calculation. But what I'm going to do here in this calculation, this date, I'm going to move it 1 month behind. So there is another function which is known as date add, which can move around date. Now date add function also require continuous date. So if somebody gives you a single date and asks you, go 1 month back, you can't go using date add function. Date add function require continuous dates. And to understand this, watch my video date as date add. Okay, you will be able to understand, but right now we don't have time for that. So I'm going to click on any of the major tool, new major. I'm going to copy this calculation and I'm going to make it LMTD, last month till date. I could have last year month till date, means I behind 12 months. Now I keep the calculation same, but in the dates MTD, I'll use a function date add, and I'll move my entire dates which I'm passing to this function by a month. So first argument in the date add is dates. The second argument is interval, which is -1. And the third argument is, so second argument is number of interval, and third argument is which interval. So it is the month interval. If I want a year behind, I can use 1 year, -1 year, or I can use 12 months. I'm done with my calculation. Let me press enter. And let me go back and bring this LMTD1net, put it here. And you will see, you're seeing some numbers behind it. What are those numbers? Now to understand these numbers better, let me again remove the filter on the hair. And let's go back onto the very first date in this visual. And what you see on the 13th of October 2018, there is no data for LMTD. And if you scroll down on 13th of November, you see the same data which was available on 13th of October, 15,045. And on 14th of October, it was 36,000 MXTD, and it is same 36,000. So now my calculation, because my calendar has moved 1 month behind, it is bringing me last month till date. So by moving my calendar a month behind, I'm able to get it. Now there is something known as previous month also, and we are going to try that out. So I'm again going to click on my KPI table, and this time from the table tool, let me create a new measure. And this measure is nothing but previous month. And I'm going to use a function calculate net, and the function which I'm going to use is previous month. And in here, I'm simply going to supply date of date table. Again, the rule is I'm using the date from the date table into the formula as well as in the visualization. The date in the visualization is from the date table. If you take sales date, your results may go for a toss. If you take sales date in the formula, it may go for a toss. So everywhere I'm using the date from the date table in the visual, in the calculation, everything. Now, when I put here, you would be surprised to see there is something strange here. There is nothing strange because the previous month calculation doesn't work on the date level, it works on the month level. So it is giving me complete total of the previous month for the month of November. So every date of the November is going to get this month. So typically what happens is, let's duplicate this page. We are going to use it at month level because it's the previous month, not at the date level. So if I can go ahead and change this to month here, you will see, oh, my calculations looks good because I'm going to do that. Now let me do one thing. And this is the last thing for the day. Let me duplicate these places where you're not getting any data. The card visuals, I'm duplicated that and I'm going to change these measures. One LMTD and this one is previous month. Okay, and let me go ahead and select something, December 2018. You should be very happy, December's value and the November value. Now let me do a little magic for you. Let me control and click on November. Okay, control click on November. I got the 2 months. Look at my previous month value is same, not same as LMTD. And those of you paid little attention here, the November value is 292. The LMTD shows me, sorry, 892. LMTD shows me 892. MTD shows me December value. But what does this previous month showing me? It's actually showing me the value of October, which is November was showing. And the reason for that is, now comes the rule which I wanted to showcase you. The previous month works on the first available date, not on the last available date like TD functions. So while MTD in the date range, now the 2-month date range available, MTD goes till the December and goes 1 month behind and calculate it for November. The previous month goes for the very first date, which is 1st November, and calculate the previous month, which is October. So you need to be very careful when you're selecting the ranges with TD functions or with previous functions, how they are going to behave. And then you can do little custom calculation using dates between, dates in period and all those. And then for cumulative, you have now visual function, visual calculation. You can also use dates in period also for that. Now, just a little warning, those who wanted to use, because we have a very good functions in the visual calculation like previous next. A previous next is very handy function, but look at this visual. There is no October available here. In spite of that fact, we are going to get the previous month for October or the last month value for October. The visual calculation cannot give you that. And the reason for that is visual calculation only depends on the result available in the visual. Because October is not available, they are not going to show it. That is why sometimes, even though the visual calculations are really fast, we may not adopt for that because they cannot go beyond the boundaries of what is available inside the visual. So now we'll take up some questions. Or Bharat, tell me what's the next step? We want to continue more for 10 minutes or we want to take up questions? Okay, while Bharat is coming out, what's the difference between average X and average A, which to need? Average X is at the line level. Average A, I need to check and tell you. I think it's something like all should behave it a little differently. Then a list of time intelligence text function. I think somebody already put it down, but there are many. I mean, same period last year, parallel period, dates MTD, dates QTD, dates YTD. Now we even have WTD. We do have previous periods and all those. Tons of functions are there. And I think if you look at the beginner series which I created on my channel, I try to cover most of these functions. There could be certain exceptions which are not covered individually, maybe covered in a bigger video. Uh, where are the use cases for DAX calculation to do Power BI developers like complex DAX. I think for the complex DAX, do go ahead and look out at the advanced series at my channel. I did discuss some of the use cases, very specific problems. Now, sometimes these are solutions for the problem more than the complex DAX. Like how to do ABC analysis. ABC analysis is something if you can do, that's an example of complex DAX, but the formula may not be complex. It may come out with 2 to 3 formulas. That's one example. Dynamic segmentations. What is the example of dynamic segmentation? What happens is, let's say your measures is was returning that this is ABC classification. How ABC will become? ABC will become 80% is A. This is my contribution. 80% is A. 80 to 95% is B, and above that is C. Last 5% is C. Sorted in descending order. Now you say I need A, B, C as a filter or as a slicer. You can't get it because it was a major calculation. Major cannot be mapped with the static values. That is where we create a table with the static value of A, B, C and map it back with the major. And that is what we call dynamic segmentation or binning. That is again a difficult use case in Power BI. And binning, there are multiple use cases of binning. ABC analysis is one. Then you have customer retention is another use case. Very good use case if you want to say. New customer, uh, pre, so new customers, lost customer, and retained customer. Now, customer retention definition itself is again is very complex because what do you mean by new customer? The person who came this month, or the person who came this year, or the person who came for let's say last 3 months, and he never came before, or it is fine if he came before. Who is my new customer? So that definition of new customer, the person who came in this period and never came before is a new customer, or a person who came this year, never came last year is a new customer. So based on that, again, uh, this is a complex case where we say customer retention and then doing dynamic segmentation, giving the number for new, retained, and lost customer as the numbers against the group wise is again dynamic segmentation is required. So there are cases. Then there are not DAX cases, but calculation groups solve a lot of problems, and you should look at those. Like when you want major as headers, like what happens when you typically go and create a matrix visual. If I have a category would be on top and gross and net would be below it. But what happens when you want to bring gross and net over the category? You need calculation group. Now I can have a visual which shows me MTD, QTD, YTD, and net, gross, and let's say margin. So one side of the matrix is net, gross, and margin. Another side is MTD, QTD, YTD. If you ask me, this is just measures. There is no dimension here because this is combination of MTD of gross, QTD of gross, YTD of gross, and net of those. How does I come to that situation? Again, calculation groups. Only calculation groups can solve that kind of problem. Now there are more complex problems which you can use with DAX functions. DAX user defined function came very recently, can solve such of those problems. Again, I done a video around. So these are some of the problems, and there are many such problems which I have discussed actually on the channel, which can tell you, the complex cases. Like PNL, creating a PNL itself is a challenge. Now I have given one method for creating PNL. There is another method you can create PNL using calculation group. One is using additional table. Now then there is others, top end with others. Now top end with others is easy in some of the tool because they provide that other facility. Now Power BI doesn't provide it. Now it is a challenge here. So we need to know how to do that. So that's a challenging problem with DAX. It might not be a challenging problem in other BI tools, but here it is challenging. Same way, whenever you use some kind of a row context, your totals, like if you see here, the grand total itself is MTD. Look at the grand totals. It's not the sum of the gross sales. Only first one is correct, rest are not correct. There are many such scenarios where these grand totals are not correct. Then we have to do the row calculation separately using is in scope or is filtered. We have to use those and correct this calculation. Those are again some of the use cases you should learn how to correct your grand total. So these kind of use cases, I think you should be trying out, and they can help you out. Definitely, if you ping me on LinkedIn, I can share both. I did have shared some posts in the past, like 10 DEX problem you should be solving, and let me see if that is really handy. I will be able to tell. But Bharat, do you see any other question which I should answer?
No, Amit. As of now, we are good. We are good with all the Q&A. I think, guys, Amit have covered most of the scenarios what you're gonna face in real time with respect to PL300 series. Also, he added with respect to the interviews perspective, and a lot of people asked complex DAX scenarios, so he answered it. I could see people have noted it carefully for their exam as well as for their interviews. So, if you need more with respect to DAX, I think it is not possible in this 1 hour. What you can do, just visit Amit YouTube channel. He's having a lot of videos available with a series of plenty of use cases already. It is done. So he's having 20 hours long video. If you get time, just go through it and practice accordingly. All the videos, all the links are available in the description. You can download that, practice along with that video link, and you can pause it, come back, pause it, come back, then try to finish that use cases. So that's how we will be learning it. It is not like just watching the video and we may be feeling that we are expert in DAX. No, so you have to go through a long journey. So thank you so much, Amit. We have learnt a lot from this session. So if you want to take up 1 more minute for the closure, you can.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for this, and thank you Bharat for organizing this for PL300. And I think a lot of youngsters who are looking the career in Power BI, this is a great platform, and not only great platform to learn Power BI, but also a great platform to earn 50% discount on PL 300 voucher and become a PL 300 certified. So thanks Bharat for the opportunity. Thanks everyone who has joined on this afternoon and there since morning. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you everyone. So we are left with one last session from 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So that is more interesting. Beautiful visualization. We have now Microsoft MVP waiting. So I'm ending this call. Join the next slot which is there in your group. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hey Bharat.
Yeah, hi. I'm just checking whether the previous live is closed or not. One moment.
Take your time, no worries.
Mm,
Bharat, it is not yet closed, the previous one.
I don't know how it is. It is like it is asking me whether it is you or closing or not. One moment.
Yes, stop streaming.
Yeah, I stopped streaming in the OBS.
Yeah, you have to stop by OBS.